Video 55 VRE narrates the story of a fearless warrior named Bhim, who encountered numerous Rakshasa challenges during his journey. With courage and strength, he fought bravely, freeing nearby communities from their oppressive hold. Read on to discover more. As mentioned in earlier videos, fearless Bhim often encountered strangers with Rakshasa-like qualities in his efforts to protect his family and the people at large. After spending 10 months with the family of Bhim's father-in-law at Vidyadhari Mount, alongside his brothers, the Pandavas decided to proceed further on their intended journey. While traveling through a dense forest, they heard a loud and menacing voice declaring, "You are forbidden from passing through my forest." The voice belonged to Bhimsur, a Rakshasa who warned them of dire consequences if they disobeyed. Bhim, undeterred, accepted his challenge, and a fierce battle ensued between them for hours. Finally, Bhimsur was defeated and, acknowledging his loss, granted them permission to pass through the forest. Continuing their journey, the Pandavas visited temples dedicated to various Tirthankar Bhagwan along the way. Eventually, they reached a town and took shelter in the house of a poor Vaishya widow and her 12-year-old son. The woman graciously provided them with a place to stay, along with meals and other basic arrangements. Exhausted from their journey, the Pandavas slept soundly. In the middle of the night, Kunti was awakened by the sound of someone weeping. Upon investigation, she discovered the Vaishya woman crying in despair. When Kunti asked the reason for her sorrow, the woman revealed her plight. She explained that the kingdom was ruled by a man-eating king named Bakasur. Each family in the kingdom was required to send a member to be sacrificed to the Rakshasa, and now it was her family's turn. Her only son was to be sent the next morning, and she was heartbroken at the thought of losing him. King Bakasur is a man-eater who demands a sacrifice. "It is my son's turn." Kunti consoled the grieving woman and assured her that there was an alternative. "Do not worry," she said. "My son will take your son's place. He will face Bakasur on your behalf." The following morning, a vehicle from the king's side arrived to take the Vaishya woman's son. Hearing the commotion, Kunti listened closely and recognized the caller's voice. She instructed Bhim to address the problems caused by King Bakasur and to accompany the caller in place of the woman's son, thereby fulfilling the Pandav's obligation. Bhim agreed without hesitation. The impatient caller repeatedly summoned Bhim, but Bhim, showing little concern, delayed his arrival. After several minutes, Bhim finally reached the vehicle. The caller, furious at the delay, warned Bhim of the dire consequences of his carelessness, as the king was not to be kept waiting. However, Bhim retorted sharply, showing no sign of apology. The caller was taken aback by such insolence, something he had never encountered before. Meanwhile, King Bakasur grew restless, irritated by the delay. When Bhim and the caller finally arrived, Bakasur roared, demanding that Bhim step out at once and face his wrath. Bhim, unfazed, did not comply immediately, further angering the king. In a fit of rage, Bakasur grabbed Bhimayuro trademark symbol as leg to drag him out of the vehicle, but Bhim countered with a powerful kick from his other leg, sending the king flying. Bhim then stepped out, and the two engaged in a fierce battle. Bhim's powerful punches left Bakasur severely injured and unconscious. The public gathered to witness Bhimayuro trademark symbol as valiant fight, cheering for him and calling for Baksurayuro trademark symbol as demise. However, Bhim chose not to kill him. Instead, he commanded Bakasur to leave the kingdom immediately and abandon his evil ways. Humiliated and defeated, Bakasur left the town and retreated to the forest, where he lived by consuming the remains of buried corpses. Over time, he lost the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. In Bakasur's absence, his son was crowned as the new ruler. Grateful to the Pandavas, the new king requested them to stay in the town as honored guests. The Pandavas accepted the invitation, much to the joy of the public, who celebrated their presence. The Pandavas, during their stay in the town ruled by Baksura, faced an unusual challenge. An uncontrollable elephant had wreaked havoc, destroying public property and eluding capture. The distressed townspeople turned to Bhim for help. Rising to the occasion, Bhim delivered powerful punches to the elephant and, in an extraordinary show of strength, tore out its tusks. The distressed elephant, overwhelmed by Bhimayuro trademark symbol as might, surrendered. The crowd rejoiced, marveling at Bhim's prowess and enjoying the thrilling spectacle. Bhim was showered with cheers and gratitude. After spending several enjoyable months in the town, the Pandavas resumed their journey. On their way, they encountered the Vindhyachal mountains. At its peak, they saw a beautiful and seemingly eternal temple. Despite the difficult climb, they decided to visit the temple, drawn by its mysterious allure. Upon reaching the summit, they found a grand, majestic temple. Its massive doors were closed, and no one was in sight. They waited, admiring the Templiero trademark symbol as beauty and hoping for someone to open the doors. Unable to resist, Bhim decided to push the doors himself. Miraculously, the moment his hands touched the doors, they opened effortlessly, as if waiting for his touch. The Pandavas sounded a joyful Jaikara and entered the temple. Inside, they worshipped and marveled at its exceptional beauty, realizing it was crafted by celestial beings. As they prepared to leave and shut the temple doors, they encountered a Yaksh who appeared before them. The Yaksh presented Bhim with a divine Gada, make, as a reward. When Bhim asked about the significance of this honor, the Yaksh revealed the story behind it. The Templiero trademark symbol as doors had remained closed for ages, and it had been prophesied by a sage that only a noble soul could open them. Bhimayuro trademark symbol as actions fulfilled this prophecy. Grateful for Bhim's virtue and strength, the Yaksh explained that his visit to the temple was also made possible by Bhim. Henceforth, the temple would remain open for all. In celebration of this event, the Yaksh presented Bhim with the divine Gada, stating that whoever wielded it could never be defeated in battle. Bhim accepted the gift with happiness and gratitude. The Pandavas stayed at a place for some time before resuming their journey toward their destination. On the way, they arrived near a city and decided to rest at its outskirts. As all were hungry, Bhim entered the city to arrange food. He went to the king's palace, expecting to find enough provisions. Disguised as a Brahman, Bhim caught the attention of the king's daughter, who was observing people near the road to the palace. She was astonished by Bhimayuro trademark symbol as exceptionally handsome appearance, which resembled that of the heavenly king Indra. Mistaking him for Indra in disguise, she was captivated by his divine presence and felt restless, falling deeply in love with him at first sight. The king noticed his daughter's reaction and, upon observing Bhim himself, decided that this man would make a suitable husband for her. Bhimayuro trademark symbol as noble demeanor and handsome features convinced the king of his worth. The king approached Bhim and proposed the marriage. Although Bhim was also drawn to the princess, he informed the king that the final decision rested with his elder brother, who was staying outside the city at a dharmashala. The king accompanied Bhim to meet Yudhishthir, and was impressed by the Pandavs' noble family. Their radiant appearances and dignified manners confirmed their royal lineage. After Yudhishthir approved the alliance, the king joyfully invited the Pandavas to his palace to make arrangements for the wedding ceremony. Once the king learned their true identity, he was even more delighted and insisted that they stay in the city for an extended period. The wedding ceremony was performed with great celebration, strengthening the bond between the two noble families. After spending a couple of months, they were ready to resume their journey and eventually reached an ancient city named Makandipuri, ruled by King Drupad. They stayed on the outskirts of the city. The king had many wise and handsome sons, but he also had an exceptionally beautiful daughter named Draupadi. Seeing that his daughter was of marriageable age, the king grew concerned about finding a suitable match for her. Meanwhile, in another realm, a Vidyadhari king named Surendravardhan, who resided on Mount Vizyarth, also had a young and charming daughter. Wishing to find an alliance for her, he consulted Muniraj, a wise sage. Muniraj revealed that the king possessed a Gandiv bow of extraordinary qualities. He prophesied that whoever could string the bow during the wedding altar ceremony for Princess Draupadi in Mukandipuri would not only marry her but also King Surendravardhanayoro trademark symbol S daughter. With this prophecy in mind, King Surendravardhan, his daughter, the Gandiv bow, and an entourage travelled to Makandi to meet King Drupad and share the story. King Drupad was overjoyed and began preparations for an extraordinary wedding altar to host a Swayamvar for the two princesses. He announced the event across the kingdom, inviting kings and warriors from far and wide to participate in this unique challenge. At the altar, the Gandiv bow was placed on an intricately decorated table, glowing as if infused with divine energy. Before the start of the competition, Draupadi circled the altar as part of the introductory ceremony, observing the participants. Her radiant beauty captivated everyone, leaving many of the kings mesmerized and restless. The challenge was then announced. The winner must string the Gandiv bow and pierce a pearl mounted on the nose of a rotating statue of Radha. Only then would he win the right to marry both princesses. Draupadi returned to her seat, eager to witness the contest. When the participants examined the Gandiv bow, they were struck by its fierce, glowing energy, which seemed to warn them against touching it. Many could Nayoro trademark symbol T even look directly at the bow, while others who dared to touch it were left with burns on their palms. One by one, they returned to their places, dejected and disheartened. Most lost all hope of marrying Draupadi, while others wondered if anyone could rise to the challenge. When all the royal suitors failed to meet the challenge announced in the assembly, the Pandavas, seated in a corner disguised as Brahmans, observed the events. Yudhishthir turned to Arjuna and said, "It seems no one here is capable of fulfilling the challenge." Arjun, whose face shone with confidence and determination, stood up. As he passed through the assembly of kings, his striking personality drew every Vaniyaro trademark symbol as attention. Draupadi, watching him keenly, was mesmerized by his aura. When Arjuna approached the Gandiva bow, he calmly examined it. With a single motion, he lifted the bow effortlessly and strung it in the blink of an eye. As he pulled back the string and released it, a high-pitched sound reverberated through the assembly, sending shivers down spines. The sound was so intense that horses and elephants became restless, adding to the chaos. Yet, in the next moment, the challenge was accomplished. Arjuna's arrow struck and pierced the pearl from Radhayaro trademark symbol S nose. Victorious, he returned to his brothers, holding the Gandiva bow and stood in front of them. Music filled the air to mark the joyous occasion. Draupadi, along with her friends, approached Arjun to garland him. During garlanding around his neck, a strong gust of wind scattered some of the flowers, causing a few to fall on other Pandavas. The envious kings seized the opportunity to spread falsehoods, accusing Draupadi of intending to marry all 5 Pandavas. This rumor persisted even into modern times, though it had no basis in reality. Gracefully, Draupadi stood beside Arjun. However, the jealous kings, unable to tolerate the outcome, protested vehemently. They approached King Drupad, angrily declaring, "Auro, how can a Brahman claim a Kshatriya princess? This is unacceptable. We will not allow this wedding to proceed. Cancel the ceremony, or face dire consequences." Auro, the atmosphere grew tense, and a warlike situation loomed. Arjun reassured Draupadi, "Auro, from now on, it is my responsibility to protect you. Auro at King Drupadauro trademark symbol as command, preparations were made for battle. 5 war chariots were also arranged for the Pandavas, while Draupadi was sent to stay with Kunti. As the conflict unfolded, the battlefield bore witness to Arjunauro trademark symbol as unmatched skill. His attacks on the opposing kings were so precise and fierce that it seemed as though the legendary warrior had returned from the dead. Realizing they were unable to counter him, the opposing side sought the intervention of Guru Dronacharya. Arjuna, recognizing his former teacher on the battlefield, sent an arrow carrying a note that read, "Auro, your pupil, Arjun, is before you." Auro, upon reading this, Dronacharya halted the battle and addressed the gathered kings, revealing the truth, "Auro, these are the Pandavas, disguised as Brahmans." Auro, the tension dissipated as understanding dawned upon everyone. The war ceased, and the assembly turned into a joyous celebration. The kings embraced one another, and the Pandavas were welcomed back with honor. Thus, a potentially tragic conflict ended in a happy resolution, with Arjun and Draupadi united, and harmony restored among all present. Everything proceeded gracefully. The marriage was performed in the traditional way, where Arjun married 2 princesses, Draupadi and the daughter of Surendra Vardhan, in the city of Makandi. They stayed happily for some time before preparing for their return journey to Hastinapur. Upon reaching Hastinapur, Bhishma Pitamah mediated a compromise between the Kauravas and Pandavas, dividing the kingdom into 2 equal parts. The Kauravas expressed regret over the burning of the Lakshagraha palace, claiming they had no involvement in the incident. With apparent harmony restored, King Yudhishthir further divided the Pandavas' share of the kingdom into 5 parts, allowing each brother to govern his own region under Yudhishthir's overall supervision.